Evening, everyone, and thank you for watching. I'm Katie Moore.
And I'm Sharice Gibson. Closing arguments just wrapped up in the trial for the murder of Linda Frickey, who died in a violent carjacking.
Yeah, it's a crime the lead homicide detective told the court was the most gruesome he has ever seen. Mike McDaniel's been following the arguments in court today. He joins us live now with the very latest. Mike?
Hey there, ladies. It's been a long day of testimony in this case. You know, it was handed over to the jury about 30 minutes ago. Of course, we don't know how long deliberations may last. Just before we came on air, the jury came back to the court asking for definitions of second-degree murder, negligent homicide, as well as manslaughter. Of course, there's no question about John Honore's guilt in this case. His own defense attorney said in opening statements to the jury that he did it. What the defense is arguing is that John Honore didn't intend to kill Linda Frickey on that day. So during closing arguments, the defense asked for mercy when it comes to John Honore, saying he was a child and made a dumb decision. The prosecution said those decisions were deliberate and led to the death of 73-year-old Linda Frickey. Today, we also heard from a husband and wife who live on Bienville Street in Mid-City, where Frickey was dragged by her own SUV as John Honore, who was then 17 at the time, was doing the driving. They each spoke about the horrors they saw leading up to Frickey dying on the sidewalk. They say Frickey was screaming, pleading for the driver, who we now know to be Honore, to stop, but that didn't happen. Prosecutors say Honore drove across a guide wire from a utility pole, which then severed Frickey's arm from her body and finally released her from the SUV. Up next on the stand was that lead NOPD homicide detective who walked jurors through all the crime scene photos showing the path of the crime, which spanned for the length of 2 football fields. We then heard from the forensic pathologist who did the autopsy report on Frickey. She told the court Frickey suffered multiple deadly injuries, one of them being when her arm was severed from her body. She went through the list of these traumatic injuries, both internal and external. Frickey's sister also took the stand describing the person Linda Frickey was, saying they had even talked about carjackings in the city and what to do if it ever happened to them. She said Frickey told her she would just let the criminal have the car, but then she said he didn't give her a chance, talking about John Honore there. Prosecutors say Honore punched, pepper sprayed, and even stomped on Frickey before he drove off in her SUV with 3 other defendants. We know those 3 other defendants last week pleaded guilty to a lesser charge. They were all sentenced to 20 years. Now tonight, John Honore faces a life sentence. If he is convicted on that second-degree murder charge, he could be up for parole in 25 years if that is the conviction handed down. Of course, the defense is hoping for 40 years on a manslaughter charge. That's up to the jury for them to decide. Now, Honore also wrote a letter to the Linda Frickey family apologizing for what he did, saying he made the biggest mistake of his life, asking and hoping that he could be forgiven. We are now waiting for the jury to come back with that verdict. Live outside criminal court, Mike McDaniel, WWL Louisiana. Ladies.